point, the easiest place to cut the spending should be the foreign welfare. All the spending, the foreign aid, and all the wars, we should be able to come together. And I can't give you too much encouragement to say, well, the typical conservative Republican is going to do the job, because they like that overseas spending. So it has to be a coalition of those on the right who believe in limited spending and are willing to cut the military spending, as well as people from the left. Bring people together and get together and change this foreign policy and change the spending overseas. But if we don't do that, of course, these conditions are going to get much, much worse. And but we have to look at the policies overall. The policy of non-intervention, minding our own business, being friends with people and trading with people, is so much better than trying to domineer the world. But coming together should not be that difficult when you think about what freedom is all about. I am so convinced that this is the right track to take, is that freedom should bring us together. People have diverse lifestyles and they spend their money differently. But if you understand freedom and understand where this comes from, it comes in a natural or a God-given way that we get our lives and our liberties, not from our government. And respect is the individual. That is freedom, because it's your life. You own your own life, and therefore you should own what you earn. You know, if you have right to your life and your liberty, you ought to have the right to keep the fruits of your labor. What has happened approximately 100 years ago, this idea of liberty wasn't unified. It was sort of chopped into pieces. Some people, to a degree, defended economic liberty, but others said, oh no, economic liberty doesn't work. There's always going to be poverty, and we have to redistribute wealth. We have to regulate. We have to manipulate the monetary system. We have to plan the economy and all these things, and the evidence is in now that that doesn't work. So they don't like economic liberty. But then there's another group that say, well, we like economic liberty, but you know, people, if you have a choice of doing anything you want with your own life, you might do some things that I don't like. Well, guess what? If you want to live, as I do, and I'm sure you do, live in a free society, one thing you have to accept is tolerance on how other people spend their money and run their own lives. There's another little thing you have to accept, that this is true. We have a right to our life. We run our lives as we see fit. But if we make mistakes, guess what? You have to assume responsibility for your mistakes. The main reason why it doesn't work to turn these responsibilities over to the government is the government are politicians and bureaucrats. Now, the first thing is they don't know what's best for you. They think they do, but they don't know what's best for you. This would be equivalent to having a state religion. Religion is pretty important. For most people in this country, religion is important, and our spiritual life is important. But we never for a minute assume that, oh, government, you know, they know what's best for us, so they should tell us what we should do with our spiritual life and our religious values. We don't accept that. To control the way you spend your money, and too many how to control your lifestyle. So this is the reason this should bring us all together, not so much on how we use our freedoms, but we should all come together because we want our freedoms and we want to use them as we so choose. government obviously represents intrusion into our personal lives, and that is something that is becoming a very, very serious crisis in this country today. When you look at what's happening, it's been bad, it's been gradual over the many years, because the financial privacy has been invaded a long time ago. Essentially, you don't have much privacy left, if any at all. And but you know, if you get to the point where you feel like, well, what can we do about it? Well, think about what we all have done, because I'm sure many of you participated in Stop Online Privacy Act. That got stopped. When the people get the message to Washington, they have to be aroused enough to do it, like auditing the Fed. I mean, we've gotten the people to respond. The politicians are there not because they have strong beliefs in anything, to tell you the truth, rather than staying in office. So, what they need to know is what you want from them in order for them to stay in office. If not, they need to leave that office. Have deteriorated since 9/11. 9/11 was a horrible, horrible day. I do believe that it was wrongly assessed, and that there's poor understanding exactly why that came about, because the official explanation is that foreigners came here because they were religious radicals, and they attacked us because we were free and prosperous. I don't buy that. I don't buy into that. But since 9/11, it was used as an opportunity. Matter of fact, before 9/11, it was written by many neoconservatives that when the opportunity presents itself, you never let an opportunity pass to promote what they believe in. Believe me, what they did, what was the first thing they did? The immediate afterwards, it was invading a country that had nothing to do with it, invading Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction, the Al-Qaeda there, and none of that was true. And just think of the loss of life and the money cost and all that's going on. Guess what? The Al-Qaeda is there now. So it's a failed policy. But when you look at the country, then now we hear stories, and probably pretty good evidence, who financed it, and also 15 out of the 19 came from there, and they also have radical government there that we prop up. That's Saudi Arabia. You know, that is completely, they're protected at the same time because somebody in Iraq decides that they might want to use something other than the dollar, and they won't do our bidding. They have to be disposed of. So this 9/11 was just used as the excuse. The other thing that happened after that, within days, there was a bill brought back up because it had been floating around, and that was called, it was misnamed, of course, it was called the Patriot Act. So along with the Federal Reserve, we'll be repealing the Patriot Act as well. I was sitting next to another member, and he was, voting for it. And I said, "Why are you voting for this? You haven't had a chance to read it. You don't even know what's in it." And I said, "You know, there's going to be a lot of bad stuff." He said, "I know." He says, "But it's called the Patriot Act." He says, "How am I going to go home and explain it to my people that after 9/11 I didn't vote for the Patriot Act?" I said, "Well, that's your job. Go home and explain it to them." you hear the name of a bill in Congress, the bill is going to do exactly opposite of what it said. Now, just think of the advantage we would have had if they'd have put the name on the bill and said, and call it Repeal the Fourth Amendment Act. Maybe there were a few that might not have voted for it. So when we introduced the legislation to get rid of the Patriot Act, we won't call it Repeal the Patriot Act, we'll call it Restore the Fourth Amendment Act. The National Defense Authorization Act, we have the military now able to arrest American citizens. I mean, it goes on and on. So, and who gets to write the search warrants? The people who are marching into our houses, the FBI and the CIA and the military will be writing their own search warrants. That's I think the founders of this country got pretty annoyed with that when the British Army did it.